Okay. Hi, Sherry. So I hope the truck issues weren't really serious. You know that. So do you guys share a vehicle? Is that why you had to go get them? So I guess there was a blip up. The other two ladies didn't realize it was this Sunday. They thought it was the following Sunday. So when I sent them all the information, they said, "Sorry, we're busy today." And oh, we're just waiting for the work to be done. Okay. Yeah, the life of a truck driver, eh? Well, at least God bless that it's um oh, it's his work. Yeah, so you take him to his work truck, but that's what I'm saying. So you guys, you drive him back and forth, so he doesn't have to drive. So it's so ask away. I'm got this situated this way so I can see the screen, and when you're asking questions or anything. So, question away, or you can send it via here too because I've got this. Yeah, I don't know. You know what the wild thing was is I actually tested it Friday night. I did a quickie little video Friday night. Here, everything worked fine. I mean, I wasn't live, but I just did a live, like a recording to see if that was working because sometimes I might just want to record a video and then upload it to YouTube. So, I don't know. Last Sunday was okay, but I made the mistake of downloading this software for webcams because this is a generic high. I love this webcam. It's very high definition, and it's a beautiful webcam, so it really covers a lot. I got this setting on high D, so you get a really nice view of the layout. But also, yeah, I'm going to shut this off too because that plays a part on how this looks down at the page, and then you don't really see. So, what looks incredible? Oh yeah, the high D. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Isn't it great? The only thing is now you can see I haven't got that lovely makeup. My daughter, I'm buying a pack from her. We get our CPP tomorrow, right? So I'm gonna get the 4-pack, and that'll get rid of all this ruddiness here. Oh my gosh, right? Anyway, so I went and downloaded this webcam software and to record through this, and it screwed up my Zoom. And then all of a sudden it screwed up Windows too. So I just thought, oh my God. So I uninstalled it, and then I was panicky too because I had the Zoom class last Sunday, and so I was panicky, and then I uninstalled it, and then rebooted and cleaned everything up, and then it worked fine. So I had a great Zoom class last week, and then I tried it again. I don't. Well, no, wait a minute. I don't know what order it was in, but I think I had my Zoom class first. Then I did the camera midweek, and then it screwed up, and then I had to uninstall and clean all my files and reboot so that it was a mess. So anyway, clean that all up. Actually, I probably should have done a deep clean. That probably would do it. Who knows? There might still be some kind of a. Anyway, can I grab a quick coffee because I've been sitting here trying to troubleshoot for the last. Now we're coming up 25 minutes. Sorry about that. Well, actually, since 1:45. So I'll be right there. You got get your paints going. So yeah, it's unfortunate that the other two ladies, which is yeah, it's always disappointing. You're trying to build up a platform, but like everything else, you got to build it. But I'm so grateful for you, my love. You're always supporting me, and you get to learn more skills too, right? You get your watercolor skills built up, and hopefully you learn a little bit of something, each time. I mean, these are just paint-alongs, but when it comes to me doing anything, of course, I'm going to try and give you the best bang for your buck. So, did you read the email? I basically had I think I sent it around 2 o'clock. You obviously were busy, but do you have any convenience greens? I think you said yes. Um, yeah, yay, both of us. I know. You're awesome. Do you know you're the two classes you paid for my Zoom? It's the cost for me to do the Zoom. Um, and the other two ladies are working off gift certificates. They supported me last year when I did a fundraiser for, it was called, remember that hashtag help Patty pay the rent. And so she bought four $40 gift certificates. She's already used one, like one $40 one. And now, so basically she's got like nine classes she can do for free. Does that work out? No, 4 times 8, 12. So anyway, so it was basically a freebie for them anyway. Oh, good. Using your white knights. Okay, so that's great because I'll work along with those as well then. Because what's really nice is you've got the hookers in there. You've got the Viridian, and you've got the well, they call it emerald. There's a yellow green, which is really, really super bright, and you can warm that up with one of the warm blues. So make some puddles. I've got some left over from last week when I was with working on that one, that floral, fantasy floral. Oh, I just noticed my door's open. I'm going to close it. Yeah, so anyway, that's too bad. But is the is the YouTube feed pretty good? Oh yeah, that fantasy floral. You did a good job on the rabbit. You didn't do the fantasy floral last week, though, did you? You would have loved that. And even the gals, well, the one gal Betty, just love her. She's so straightforward, but she's a no bones. Like just tell it straight. She'd be the kind of gal where you wouldn't be surprised if she smoked a cigar. You know what I mean? Like she's just lovely, just a hoot. Just no bones, right? Like no guesswork, and that's the kind of people I like. So anyway, as you saw this, I don't know. Oh, so bright, but I've got the window open too, or maybe I should shut the curtains. That'll probably help. Oh my God, won't be missing anymore. What do you mean? Yeah, I know, right? Honestly, you'd love her. I know. I'm going to close the window. I think the brightness from the light. So the thing is when you've got these high definition cameras and um, they actually compensate for the lighting, and wow, they actually pick up every ounce of light and bring it in, and sometimes it ends up being more of a hindrance than a help. Okay, so that should probably help us. I ended up I was on the other side. See, that's a little bit better. To notice how much darker it got? That's a little, there you go. And so what I ended up doing, if you've got any of those shiny mica paints, what I did is I kind of just did a real watery over top here. So I'm just going to bring the camera down now onto the paper. And I've already activated my White Knights. It's my favorite palette. And you know what's really nice about this is it's too bad that it just came in a box. It'd be nice if it was like a container that you could close up tight so you could travel with it. Like it has all the, and you know what? I want to tell you something a lot of people don't know is I'll show you. I'll bring the camera down so I can point to it properly, okay? So I'm just going to bring you a little closer here. Get some of this stuff out of the way. This is the beauty about having a big desk too. So, like I got room. Okay, let's bring this right down. And I'm going to try. I'll bring it a little bit over this way so you can actually see the paper and the there. See, you can see it. All right. So I'd actually even thought that maybe even doing a, an umbrella overhead too, which brought a little bit of shade over it, and then the camera will pick up or absorb any light it needs. But I think this will be pretty good, and then I'll hold up, and show you. So you've transferred over, and obviously I did it to this side of the paper so that if you saw on that one, if you wanted to put Happy Easter, whatever you want, I just put some words on there on the one. This one here, yeah. Oh, hi, Mish. Oh, I'm just having a live Zoom here. Come on in. It's my sister. Oh, geez. Okay, so anyway, so I put it off to the side, and that way you can make it into a card if you want. So, okay, so we're ready to go. You've got your, oh yeah, so I did want to talk to you while you were getting your wets. So these, I get these wet all the time, so that's why they always look a little bit gummy too, but as you can see, they're wearing well. Obviously my two favorites here. But this color right here, they call that English red, and you'll note on the back. So remember I was telling you to do this? This is a great little tool, right? And so you see that black line in there? That's when you do your paints, you can see whether they're opaque or semi-transparent, right? That sort of thing. And staining, of course, the staining will tell you. You have your, your symbols for staining and whatever. I don't know why this doesn't do an automatic zoom. Maybe it takes a minute or something. Oh, good. Yeah, it's always good to have that. I see, I made it the size of this, so then it just slid right inside that box. So that's very convenient. But this is my little miracle color here. English red is actually red oxide. But the funny thing about this pigment is PR101 is exactly the same pigment as burnt sienna, but they're distinctly different in their coloring. So it was pretty cool when I figured that out. But this color here makes really nice blacks, right? It makes really super dark browns. It's an excellent color for plein air. This whole palette is based on the Rembrandts or whatever, like the old masters palettes. So when they would go out and do plein airs and things like that, these are the colors that they use. They might not have been as many, but typically your raw sienna, your umber, so that's plain umber, which is actually, umber is not pure because it has two pigments in it, whereas burnt umber is just P brown 7, and umber has PB brown 7 and black in it. So you can see there's a distinct difference. But this is another one of my favorites, is the sepia. Oh, this is actually opposite what I'm showing. So yeah, weird. I should probably, oh yeah, so on the Zoom one, you can select it so that it's, when I say left, it's actually showing left. Anyway, it's all good, right? So, and use just a small, you can use one of your small, what size is your Da Vinci? Is it a number 8? Or if it's a number 8, you can probably do all right with it. So you got your waters, your clean, and your what have yous. So what I want you to do is you take your light yellow, your lemon yellow or your light yellow, and make a nice puddle with that, okay? I don't have a free puddle. I thought I did. Let's see. I got a peanut jar, my peanut thingy here. So I had a heck of a time with my Zoom. Did you meet my sister, Sherry? Michelle? Oh, an A4 Da Vinci. Oh, my God. I'm so jealous. I had a girl, though. You got the good stuff. The Da Vincis are so good. So, yeah, that'll be a good size. You don't want anything big. So this here will, because the page itself isn't that big, but it'll help, because we're going to be we're going to go around the flower, though. When we do this yellow, we're going to go behind this. We're going to do, but we're not going to do these. 1, 2, 3, okay? Keep 3 of those. 1, 2, 3, these primaries. This here was supposed to be a bud, but I kind of turned it into a leaf at the end, because the 3, they say that it's better to do it in 3s, your flowers and stuff. So I'm going to make a nice wash out of this, because as you know, I like to do the yellows as a base for a lot of my florals and a lot of the landscapes. And I use the lemon or the pale because it's staining. And because it's staining, the important part about that is I'm actually going to use my bigger brush just so this makes this a little bit quick. Well, no, Yeah, I can because it's got a nice point on it. If this was a regular round, I wouldn't be able to get around it that well. So anyway, and of course, as you know, so I'm going to go all the way around here like this. I'm not going to paint the flower at all, okay? We're just going to go around it. So the reason I like to do these, I'll always mention it in every video, whether you've heard it from me or not. But I always like to do the yellow, the staining yellow or the cool yellow behind as a underpainting. And what that does, see how nice and how pointy that is, and I can get right into those little tight corners without overlapping. Right, so I'm good. We're going to go right around the flower with that, and so this stains it. So any color I bring on top of it is not going to shift it or change it, right? And it's actually going to make it a more luminous painting. Yellow underneath landscapes and stuff gives it a little bit of a glow. It's really quite pretty. Would you be interested in doing a daffodil painting class, Sherry? I'm thinking that I might just do some florals for the next little bit. Yes, I talked about that for the bunny painting. That's right. And so you notice too, right? And then you bring that nice warm yellow over top after. How, yeah, because I was thinking of doing the daffodils next Sunday. Daffodils are a beautiful spring flower. And you know, this April's kind of the month that you start seeing them, I think, too. My daffodils are usually the first to come up, and then the tulips. But unfortunately, on the other side of the house this year, they're not going to come up because this time last year we were getting the whole front yard dug up for the sewer, and that kind of took away a lot of the bulbs that I didn't know where they were because I just left them in. They're okay. People take their bulbs out every year, but I've never done that. I think if we lived in a much colder climate, I might. But you know, for the most part, Southern Ontario's really not considered, you know, Arctic or, you know, I think we're zone 5, eh? We're zone 5, and I think zone 5 you're pretty good. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm just lifting a little bit of it, Sherry, because I really don't want it to be, yeah, right? Just leave them in. It's too much friggin' work pulling them out. Now, the calla lilies were the one that, and I didn't lift here because that's going to all be green on top of that anyway, and that'll just help bring those greens out. But here, I don't want this too yellowy, so I am lifting. So we just want it stained, right? We want it just to be stained. Now, we can go over this after with a really nice pearlescent, you know, just to give it a nice, so it's pretty wet. And then if you want, if it's still a little too yellow for you, you could just take and kind of give it like a mottled, which is kind of cool too, right? So then you kind of got that mottly yellow. See how that works? Yeah. And I'll wait. And so hopefully you got your hairdryer handy too, because that'll help speed things up. Now, but I want to keep this wet. And you can go back to, or if you're still using your DaVinci, that's great. Just get that. I don't like to leave my brushes in the water. It's not good for the brushes. So that's about the same size. Yeah, it is the same size, so that's pretty good. Do you have any of the mica paints at all, Sherry? Oh, good. I just seen that. Mica powders. Okay, so at the end, right, you can put a little bit of so here I used my copper, right, over top. Once I put my pigments in. And then, so you'll use your number 2 DaVinci on these little stems and stuff because you really want to have some good control over those. But these here, we're going to use the burnt sienna and well, on here, though, it will be the red ochre. And then we'll use the Mars brown on that. So anyway, we'll work that when we get there. But where was I? Oh, yeah. So, and on top of this, I have those Kumar, you know, the Kiritaki, but I also have the mica powders as well. But I went over this here with, I believe it was this one, but watered down. I didn't do it full strength because I didn't want it to take over the colors underneath. And then I took my lightest gold here, and watered it down and went just on the inside of the yellows and then just on the tips of some of the greens. And you can't, it doesn't translate very well on the camera, but you can sort of see it a little bit. Oh, it's so pretty. It really gives it a nice little punch, makes it a very pretty, pretty card. So what I'm going to do now is, of course, we always work from light to dark, right? Take your lightest green. Now, take the, I've got this already pre-made up, but if you take your light green, your yellow green there, and add just maybe a little bit more yellow to it. This is leaf green, that's that whole bean, but I'm just going to, and I'm going to be just very random with it, okay? I'm not going to oh, I don't know if you noticed here on this one, I added a leaf. I was so enthralled with doing all of my greens, I completely didn't even realize, and I put green there, and then I just made it into a leaf. But I actually think that looks a little bit more balanced. You can do that if you want. But I'm going to do this one without it this time just to see. I can always add it later. So anyway, let's go around and just be splotchy. You can leave some spaces. Clean out your brush. And then we go to the next mid-tone one. And what I want you to do with this, though, is we're just going to dab it in and let it spread. Because we've got this fairly wet right now. You can actually move around the water a little bit, too. Just remember, you don't want it on the stems or anything. Mind you, now we're not using staining colors, so this should be okay to lift. So I'm just getting some areas wet. So then you can go with your mid-green, which would be, you could add a little bit more blue to this color here. Like if you added yellow to it, then you could add just a titch of blue to warm that up a little bit more, right? We got a tint tone shade. So, or you could use the emerald green and then just add just a touch of warm yellow to it if you wanted to. But what I want you to do is kind of just go over some of those shapes of leaves. Now, I'm not really too concerned. I actually didn't even, line up all of those leaves. As you can see how I've got it sporadic here. All right, and then just go over top. Because what's going to happen is that yellow that you've got beneath there is going to pick up on that, and it's going to blend it out. So I'm just going to be random. I'm even just going to do some dabs. So that's the thing about when you have a super pointed brush too. You can tend to sometimes get into making, get into doing the same brush stroke, and then you're not getting a nice, kind of a random. So I kind of try to keep my hand at the back of the brush so that I'm not trying to control the brush. Does that make sense? All right, so now they got that. So we don't have a lot of area that we're doing the green on, right? So this is fairly simple. But we do want to come up. Now we're going to do the dark, though. And this is where you're going to want the point part too. So I'm going to go in with my Hunter Green. That's really, really super dark, though. And I'm going to bring it in here. See how I just love that. Man, oh, man. It makes really great browns when I mix that with the red ochre and that too. So I've got that there. But I want to subdue it a little bit, so put some of that medium in there. All right, see, now that's a nice color. So that medium yellow-green that you made before, tamper the Hunter down with that, and that won't be so stark. Now, we can use this a little bit later, the Hunter Green, for really, really dark shadows. But see these little spaces in between, underneath your lily, it's going to be the darkest color, right? Because it's furthest away from the light, or it is, and then you know what? You can even follow the stem, and then that will actually identify the stem. You can go in between the flowers, and just kind of drop it randomly, right? And then I'm actually going to bring it up into this corner too, and I'll do it under here. So kind of imagine the space between the leaves. You can make it random. Just to, because what we're going to do, even though the lily is pretty much settled, right? So that's going to be controlled. We can do the same here as what we did with our flower garden. You place your colors. You don't have to really follow the lines per se, but when you come over with your ink, you can pull out even other more leaves if you want, okay? So I'm just going to run along the edge. Because this isn't wet, it's still going to have a nice clean edge. And I'm actually going to, I think I'm going to maybe just do a little color under here too. And I'm going to make this leaf here entirely. I got a leaf hiding underneath. And I'm going to actually do this, make this a bigger stemmed leaf. So see, I'm just made that. I think it's actually the photograph that I copied it from. I think that was supposed to be another bud like that, but I just turned it into a leaf because it didn't really make sense to have that there the same size. You know what I mean? Like, you want variety. Okay, now if you want, you can go in with the super dark and just do some drops, right? And control where that's going. I'm going to do it right along the edge here. See that? And I'm going to maybe put a couple in here. I'm just going to stay at the edge, I think. Right? Okay. So we don't want to go crazy with that. Did you just get back then, Michelle?
I got back around 2:30. I was just walking around.
Yeah.
Stopped being there because it rained, and then it was starting to snow as I was leaving.
Oh.
And for some reason, when I got into Kincardine, because you go to the back part, and you got the little downtown, the lighthouse and all that. I turned down the first street, got myself turned around. The next thing I know, I backtracked 5 kilometers and had to turn around and come back to the I'm just quite a waste time, Michelle. And 2 of the waterfalls I went to go see this morning, it was 2 torrential downpours of rain. It was really messy, so I couldn't get in.
I was going to say you don't want to either, because if you ever fell, some of them are quite treacherous. Michelle did a little overnight trek up Owen Soundway and she did like a little personal drive up there. So now what we can do is I'd like to get the hair dryer on this, Sherry, and just get that dry, and then we'll start on the flower. It's pretty quick, eh, Sherry? I'm really doing this So the reason I want to dry this up a little bit is it's still fairly wet. And what I might do is, actually I like the way that this one modeled up. MOTTLED modeled. I really like the way that the colors spread out. And I might just touch it up a little bit after. But for the most part, that's pretty dang. I love it. Pretty dang, baby. So what I want to do now is we're going to do the base of the flower. Or like what I mean by base. Okay, that's dry enough. I don't need to make it super dry. We just want to make it dry enough that we can move on. And keep that little puddle there, because we'll be using that for the flower as well. So what I wanted to do here is take your lightest blue. Now, I don't know. I think the ultramarine blue will be too grainy for this flower. So in that palette, there is the cobalt blue. And cobalt blue is considered a neutral, but we want to make it so watery. All we want to do is just have a slight coloring, because there's really no such thing as a white flower. There's always some kind of a blue-gray to it, or, like this one's also got green tones in it, the lilies, the Easter lilies. But when you really look at the whites under light, it tends to have almost a blue-gray tint to it. So that's why I think that using the cerulean blue will be a good choice. I'm just going to use this plate here. This was actually a painting I'm doing for my sister. And I'm gonna get that down here, but I'm gonna make it really, really super watery. Now, it's good if you've got a little bit of you've got a little scrap piece so you can test it before you go into your flower. Mind you, cobalt blue is it's non-staining, so you can lift up to. Well, that might activate that. Yeah, that's still a little bit too light. So I'm going to add a little bit more water. Yeah, see, that's pretty good consistency. You just want to light, and then I'll lift. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to go back in, and I'm just going to paint the whole thing here. And just spread it out like that one brush. I'm actually just going to bring clean water in and spread that out. I'm not even adding any more pigment to it. I kind of went out of the lines, but you know me anymore. I don't care. I don't care. I don't sweat the small stuff anymore, that's for sure. Well, I'm learning not to still. Shouldn't say I don't, because I still am a bit of a worrier. However, had a nice conversation with Karen before I got on. My Zoom completely failed. My Zoom won't recognize my camera for some reason. I have no idea why. I even went into settings and changed it. Okay, so now what we can do is we can, you know, if you need to, just lift. But if you're going to lift, just lift from the center only so that you've got these white highlights, see? And just clean your brush out. Go in for clean water. Dab off the excess. And then just kind of come in and see that? You're just lifting that out. And that's going to kind of give you a little bit of a highlight, okay? And the other thing is this little part here, which is folded over. You can lift the color from that too. Got a little bit of staining yellow on it, but do I care? Nope. And I'm just going to lift here on this, right? Now, while that's damp, we don't want it sopping wet, okay? Damp is good because then that's where we come in with our cool yellow, right? Our lightest yellow. Nice watered down. I still got this, so I'm just going to add a titch more water because I don't want it as heavy as I did with the wash there. So that's such a strong color. Oh, I forgot to do that again, eh? And I'll put the tip of it. Oh, that's my hard drive over there. Okay, so now we're going to come in and we're just going to, so this is a back petal that's folding out, right? It's folding out. So this area all in here is going to be the darker tones, right? So it's going to be yellow in here. And I tend to just, you've got that long flick, just bring it out. Don't worry about that too much right now because it's quite wet on my brush. But I'm going to tease it out in a minute. Right now, I just want to get it laid out and then just, you know, bring it out. This glorious chlorophyll. And actually, I'm even bringing it to the tips of these because they're not quite ripe, right? They're not quite ripe. And I'll just bring it here. I got to bring it out to here a little bit more. Dabble, dabble, dabble. Dabble, 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 dabble. So see, now I dropped it in and it's flowing nicely now, right? Because I got the wetted down there. So I'm just going to spread that out. And I'm just going to bring it up. I'm going to spread it out now. Clean my brush, get it all rid of pigment. Now I'm just going to tease that up, right? Just to blend it out. We want to make it look as, see, I'm just lifting. So notice I lifted, there's a puddle there. So I'm actually going to drag that out and then get rid of that pigment off the brush. And then we do here, just drag that out. See how it just spreads that color really nice? So don't forget, this is a nice way to do it too, obviously, because we're glazing, right? Rather than just put one heavy color down, it's so much nicer and you get more depth when you glaze, right? And you go on. Remember we did that exercise where you go on top and you go on top and you go on top. And each successive layer after that just gets even yummier. So what I did too is I actually took some of this really super green yellow, got just a little bit on my brush, dab a little off, and then I went right into the center here too. Because this is where they call it the primary ovary on these types of flowers. Did you know that there's a primary ovary part of the of flowers and there's a sub ovary? So those flowers, like lilies, that this is something I learned in about flowers and the little bit of a botanical, but it's not something you might have already known but never thought about. But any flowers that kind of grow, like you see a flower like this, you got this part here, this ovary here, and then the petals come out like this and they grow out like daisies. You'll see, a lot of flowers that are like this, but then underneath it is bulby, and then you got a stem, or like the tulip or the lilies, you got the stem, you got this, and then the petals come up, and you don't see anything but the petal and the flower, right? Well, this is called the subovary. And these generally have the ovary on the inside with the stamens coming out and the petals going around it. Isn't that cool? Something you learned today. Oh, about flowers 101. So, but that's a subovary, those flowers like that. So next time somebody says, oh yeah, I see that's a subovary and that's the prime ovary, the mother lode. I'm not sure why they call it like that, but I'm sure I would be called the prime ovary in my household. Optimum Prime, baby. Okay, so I took a little bit more of that leafy green. Even though this cool green it looks really yellow green in the camera too, doesn't it? That's the Cad Yellow PY35. That's my favorite pigment for yellow, and it actually is a base for a lot of yellows. You'll see. I think maybe Hensa Yellow Light might be. No, Hansa Yellow is 97. Hansa Yellow Light is, because that's another one of my favorites. So notice how I've gone over that and it's made it just a little bit darker now, and out around the edges are lighter. That's what you want, right? We're building up. First we do the lightest tone, then we go into the mid-tone, and now the final one's going to be even darker, right? So in the center of it, right? So that's where we're going to kind of come in with one of our natural. I think I used the raw sienna, right? Just test it off of here first. Yeah, and I just dipped it in. But what I did though too is I went to this back one because there's shadow behind there. Now what I want to do is just a little bit of the raw sienna, and then I went up here, and you can just dab the color onto those stamens, okay? Raw sienna. I know I said burnt sienna before, but then I remember oftentimes I'll say burnt sienna when I mean raw sienna. And raw sienna is one of the earth tones. It's a great color to use as a base for other colors. It makes pretty, when you mix this with a blue too, make yourself a little chart and mix the raw sienna with your blues, and you'll see some really lovely greens come out of that too. And see, that's the beauty of, getting used to making your own greens first before you go to a convenience greens. I'm not an opponent of convenience greens anymore. I used to be, but life's too short, right? When you're out plein airing as well, I think that's why a lot of artists have gotten used. Isn't that starting to look nice? How's yours going? What part are you at? I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. Give you a chance to say something, Sherry.
I like this one, right? This to be both not regretted. That popped up right after you said right this too short.
Yeah, last week I was in a funky place. Oh. But and I said to my boys, I said, what one of one of the biggest emotions that you can feel in your lifetime? And they don't know what. I said regret. There's no worse feeling in the world than the feeling of regret.
Mm-hmm.
right? Broken heart you get over, but regret you never. You got to let that go, because regret is the one that hangs on like a clothespin to you, right? Because when there's regret, then there's no self forgiveness either. So anyway, those are some of the things. Those are the, what do you call it? The philosophy of Patty 101 in in her lifetime. So yeah, I can't wait to do this in person either. It's getting so silly. Okay, so now what we want to do, Sherry, is we see how beautiful that raw sienna is. While we're waiting for that to dry, come over on that raw sienna again and build up a little on there and do your stem. The stems from here. We'll clean those stems up with the darker. You can go over it, over the green here. Right, that back stem that comes out that had these 3 on it, and then I made that one into a leaf. But these stems here, you can bring that raw sienna in. We're going to mottle that a little bit to show that that's a woody kind of a, flowery kind of stemmy stem. And then I usually just do that, and then I'm going to tap on the end, and then I'm going to clean that off. Come in with clean water, take off the excess. That's a little bit too much, because don't forget these beautiful natural, the natural fibers here will actually hold the water, more water. Yeah, so I want to tell you some insights that came to me after, some of the things you've been going through lately. All right, Sherry. Sherry is an awesome gal. She supports me. She's pretty much at every class pretty much every class I've been putting on. So you know what we can do too to identify? Let's identify this stem here if you've got it hidden like I do. So it starts from here. Kind of lost mine in the green. But just even by going over top with this here, I'm lifting. Well, that's kind of looking kind of cool. I lost my stem in with the greens, but that's okay. So I'm coming over with the raw sienna here, and I'm switching back and forth. Now that raw sienna has now mixed in with the greens and literally painted my stem. See that? I love you to bits too, Sherry. You're an amazing gal. You've become an amazing friend. So what's we got? So now what we want to do is I would like to identify our stems. Of course, I only when it came to the last bits there, when we dried and we come over with the ink, I did not I kind of just did a few of the lines to indicate the stems, because I didn't want a whole bunch of black in the center, right? And that takes away from the overall. So what I chose to do was take that, that really bright green, yellow green, and I went and identified first. So always we use the light greens, right? And just see, this is semi wet, so hopefully it won't spread, and it shouldn't too much. And if it does, it won't bother it too much, because it's within the same color family that we're already using, right? So when you stay within the palette, you don't introduce any new colors to your painting than what you've used. That's what you call color harmonizing. When you stay within the color palette, and if you add the same colors over the entirety of the picture, then you create what you call color harmonies. And you typically, so we basically stuck to greens, yellow greens, and we've only slightly used a blue. So we've got a lot of really nice color harmony happening here, even though we've got 3 different types of greens, right, and a couple of yellows. But it's very harmonious, and that's why I think it feels good. Well, we've got the browns too, but they're earth tones and they become neutrals, right? So when it comes to color harmonizing, neutrals aren't typically seen as a color in a sense. They're used to help kind of give it a foundation, if that makes any sense. So it kind of grounds the picture, neutrals. They're very, very important. So also too, what I've done differently with this one that I did here, I had this stem out here. I'm not even going to bother with it. I'm just going to make this whole thing a leaf. That's the beauty. It's your picture. You can do what you want, baby. So, and you know, it's just kind of a guideline anyway. And see, that's what I love. I like your with your rabbit and the one that Sharon did, and the one that oh, what's that gal's name? There's one other lady that did it too. She didn't do it on the live that we did, but she did it when she was, oh, Shelly. Anyway, Shelly. And anyway, you get that same picture, and yet everybody has their own. No, Michelle. Yeah. You got your own spin on it, right? There's some coffee left there. Okay, so what I want to do too is enrich in the end here too. So see, right now we're just kind of dabbing around, right? We're just giving it highlights because really the lily itself, so I'm coming here, the lily kind of pops itself out, right? We don't want to make it the same color as the paper. So I'm coming into the tips here, and I'm going to come into the tip here. So typically even these little unripened lilies before they come out, they're typically sort of colorless in reality. They're only slightly tinted by nature. But I've given them a little bit of punch so that they, you know, they do stand out. So that's the other, you know, license that we have as an artist. So now what I want you to do is I'd like for you to go into the, we could use the English red if you want. Yeah, let's do the English red. Okay, just a little bit. We're going to get a little bit of that because that can be pretty potent. See how potent that is off the side? So I'm actually going to take a little bit of that off, and I'll just take it to here. And that's what we're going to do. We're just going to dab in, and see, I'm not coloring. I'm just dropping it in. See that? I'm just going to drop it into the stamen. I'm not going to work it around, and let that just soak in. See how it all, now those stamens have popped out? Now what I want to do too is I'm just going to take it to the tip. See? Look at how it's soaked up into the raw sienna there on just the tips. Look at that. Magic, eh? Now, the other thing I want to do, though, is I want to come back in here where that fold of the... And I just want to give that a little bit of attention. But the other thing I want to do is this kind of weaseled its way in, that color. It kind of soaked in there. So I'm scrubbing a little bit, doing a little scrumbling there just to make the back of the flower blend in. And then I'm going to come in with my leaf green and just, yeah, clean that up to make that look more like the back of the flower. Okay. So now the other thing too is, now that we've got that, if you want, you can kind of come over now with the dryer, because what we're going to do now is kind of detail stuff, right? All right. So the other thing, one other thing I wanted to talk about is typically when I am using ink, that's the only time that I'll use a transfer. And if I use a transfer for anything else, I try not to use a transfer because I want my lines so if I'm not going to use an ink at the end. I'm one of those people where I don't want my pencil line to show through I don't want it to look like a paint by number. Let's just say that. But if you're using inks, it's okay because it makes it look more like a botanical, you know, like an illustration with the inks. And I really love that. So there's two schools of thought there. So typically, if you're just going to do like a nature, plein air, or whatever, you use an HB pencil and just use a very light hand to trace it, and then paint over it and let the watercolor do the magic. So that's why I'm a little bit more loosey-goosey with these types here where I use ink, because the ink is almost like a finished carpenter, isn't it? Like it cleans it up. It cleans up the edges. It kind of finalizes and makes things crisp. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. So now that this is dry, I do want to outline my stamens a bit, because see how they spread out a little? That's okay. So now we can go into the the burnt umber, which is that beautiful brown, right? Oh, so gorgeous. And then just kind of run it right along the sides. Oop, that one I got a little chunk. That's a granulated too, eh? That it's a beautiful. Oh gosh, the earth colors are so nice. And just kind of dab it along just to define your stamens. Don't color it all in, because then it makes it moot all those other colors you built up underneath, right? So I think that's about all you need. Stands out, eh? And then at the very bottom of this, I'm going to do it because it's kind of under shadow. And then in here, I'm going to run it along the stem here. Just run it along just to give it a little bit of, because a stem, when you look at it, it's not going to be straight one color. So now I'm going to bring that burnt umber all the way back into here. And then I'm going to bring it here too, because it's over and above, it's above the leaves below it. So this way too, it's going to identify. And you know what you can do too? You can actually bring it, in other places too, just to show that there's other stems going somewhere, right? If you wanted to do that. And then of course, we'll just do a little motley here on that. And so I'm going to clean that out though, because that's a little bit too harsh a line on that there. See that? So you'll be able to come back onto this, Sherry. I'll make this private with your name, because you paid for it and anybody else didn't, so they can't look at it. So there you go. So there we go. I've got some nice white spots there. I think I'm going to leave that. It just gives it a little bit of a gap. Now what I might do too, as I'm looking, so we're kind of defining some of the darker areas now. I'm actually going to start using some of those dark greens again. And what I'm going to do is this is an olive green. It's one of the convenience greens I have. And I'm just going to go in and see how beautiful. But I want that darker, because right now I'm doing the very dark shadows. This is a very watered down hunter green, which is, they call it just green in the White Nights. It's just called green. It's actually Hooker's green. I think I called it hunter, but it's actually Hooker's. And it's a pure pigment. PG8 is a pure pigment. It's a pure mineral. So I'm going to actually go in with this and test it off to the side. Yep, that's pretty good. And I'm just going to kind of go in and just outline some of the darker shadows. Not the leaves. I'm just going in and identifying maybe. And just make little triangles, right? And then that makes it look like, oh, okay, that's probably where two leaves have parted or something. And to identify this part here that I kind of goofed up, I'm actually going to, do a little triangle in there, just to separate that stem from the rest. And I'm just going to do a little triangle in here. Now this will lighten up. I'm just going to go over here like this. Just identify some places where maybe the base of the right. So it looks like I got some splotches there, but I can go in when that's just about dry. If I find, Well, I can do that even now too, and just lift. I was going to say I can just bring my thirsty brush in and lift. Because right, it's always better to add than try to take away sometimes, because for some they might have an unsteady hand and take too much or whatever. I don't know. Whatever the reason is. All right, so that's a little bit more balanced. Oh, I see here though, I could probably do something in here. But I'm not going to go in with the really super dark one. I'm actually going to come in with the medium. See? So I really like all the different greens that are going. So green, like we talked about before, right? It's one of the hardest colors for people to work with, but it's really one of the most rewarding. And I think probably because it's an earth, a life giver, so to speak. And, wherever it's a little mushy up here, we can maybe define a little bit. Come up here. This is all one tone up, unfortunately, so I'll give another color. And just random. Just do some randoms in here. There. So I'm not going to overdo that. I'm going to let the ink do that at the end. Now what I do want to do, though, is I want to come in now with my olivey green, or the yellowy green, the lighter yellow green. Make it a little bit lighter. There. See how I took some of the light and I brought it here and made that even lighter? That's the beauty, eh? You work within the same palette, you can get everything you need. And I'm taking the very tip of my brush, and I'm just gonna run down that stem. Just not all the way, just near the center. And just a little bit, right? Maybe up above, underneath the stamen here. Right, just to identify. And just even come over a little bit on this here. I'm going to take my finger even and smudge it along. And here, take my finger and just smudge along. I've been like that for years. Let the finger do the talking. There, see, look at that. So in between too, right in here, where this petal's at the very back and this one over, you can make that'll be a shadow. So you just dab that and then take your finger and pull it out. That looks really good. And you kind of get a little bit of a dry brush look when you do that too. Yeah, it's looking really good, eh? And then when you just flick it here and then bring your finger out, you'll get like a dry brush appeal, and that's actually looks very natural. It looks natural to the flower. Almost looks like it's a variegated. So I'm going to do the same, just a couple here, and just bring it down. And you know what? I'm actually even going to do it along the side here like this and bring it in. I love it. There. Right? And I think that is as far as we go. And now you want to make sure you dry it completely. And then we'll go over it with the ink pen. You want to take a minute and dry yours, and then we'll come back in, or you want to... So that actually that didn't even take quite an hour. That's what I figured. If we had all our colors mixed, and I think it was 3:25, so almost an hour. That's pretty damn good, eh? That went by fast. Yeah, 58 minutes. So when you have you have everything pre-mixed and ready to go, and you've got your dryer and everything else, so you can do these things at home. A lot of people go, oh, I don't have time. They think that, a little picture or whatever takes a couple hours, but you just get everything prepped. So typically what I will do too, because I try to do a painting a day. Yeah, we'll stay on. That's good. And then we can ink it together then, if you're all right with that, because it's just us anyway. And then we'll just have a casual chat. But I am going to make this private, a private video, and then give you the link to it. Okay, put you in as your email, hopefully. It's not like I have a busy station anyway. One of these days, though, you never know, because I'm not putting anything derogatory on YouTube, so they're not cutting me off there. Although I do think that they might be going under. A lot of people have moved to different platforms because you can't even mention anything, anything about anything anymore, and you get, well, look at me on, Facebook. So, anywho, okay. So I think I'm going to take the dryer because our felt pens. You want this completely dry because those felt pens, or if you've got the felt tip markers like the microns and that, they won't go over. So have a couple of them handy with you. They will appear like they've run out, but it's just because it's too moist. And I've talked about that before too. So I'm going to put this light on here. So I've got a little bit more light, but you can see here. Do the flower first because that's pretty straightforward, and your buds. Okay, and your stamens, I only went around the underside of them and let the paint define the rest. I only did the underside just to give it a little bit more, right? And then, of course, the leaves. And then very lightly, I did just a couple of little quick black lines there just to give a striation. When you look at the leaf very close up, you'll see they're very thin, veiny lines on it, on a lily. Well, I just did that very, very lightly with I think I had my 0.03. If you have a 0.03 or 0.05, I think those work the best for those sorts of things. I did have my 0.5 is what I used for here and the rest of it. So we don't need really thick for this size of a picture. And then I went a little bit, just a tad bit darker on the inside here, just to distinguish that was the core and this was a flip of the leaf. Okay, and that's what's going to give it definition. And also, too, if you decided to put a leaf here, don't forget that you want what's closest to the edge of that flower a little bit darker. So when we introduce the contrast, it makes the main subject stick right out. Okay, let's get along. I'm going to go dry mine now, and I'll talk to you in a few seconds. I got to grab my pens too. I love that. That's funny. Now I got to figure out where you put my green bag there, Michelle? No, just there's two different bags in there. Okay. Oh, what are you making now?
Well, Kristen's young daughter really sprouted in Pinterest. So it's become kind of familiar with a lot of socials and so in my birthday. So I gave her one of the years for her daughter to play around with, and then I was putting stuff out on it. I'm going to play it together to make her daughter
I like how the dark greens on this turned out. So it's really nice because even though I may you'd be using the same kind of pattern, you can make it a very, a little different every time, right? That's up to you. And if you wanted to, you could make this even more gray. But I think what we've done is actually perfect for the lily. And I mean, of course, we could make it hyper realistic, and that's going a whole different way. A whole different route. But when for this being only a 1 hour painting and to look this lovely, that's pretty damn good. So I'm not patting myself on the back. Hi, I pat myself on the back because guess what my name is. So, but that's the way I did the felting too, right? I would sit and I break it down to the simplest parts, and so that we could get the animal or the whatever it is done in a 3 hour period. Where you see other people who have these absolutely magnificent pieces, and yet they've taken 5 days to do it. Of course, it's going to look that good. It better if you've got that many hours invested. So I think that my class, the people I teach, are above average because they learn to do something that's really, really nice and quite good looking and quite realistic in a fraction of the time. Right? So I have brilliant students. I miss the needle felting too. I really do. So these are some of the pens that I picked up at Michael's too, Sherry. These, I think these are from Michael's. Maybe I ordered them on Amazon. But the STA pigment liner, They are water resistant, they say, but you have to wait because pigment takes a much longer to dry. That's an Artist Loft. It's okay. But these ones here, these STAs, they actually have turned out to be a pretty good pen. But I think I told you about my favorite. Of course, the Microns are always good. The Sakuras. So I actually waffle between the two, the Sakuras and the. My favorite is the Sharpie pen, though, right? It's got to say Sharpie pen, and not the ballpoint. It's the Sharpie ballpoint one is more like a gel pen. So I'm going to outline. Oh, I think this was the one that I used, and I ruined it. I got tape on here because that identifies the ones that I just bought. But I remember I did ruin one of my new pens. I worked over top a very wet painting, and I never got it back. I never got the color back or the ink back. So here we go. Good thing I bought a packet of them, eh? So what I am going to do, though, I was very frustrated. I got my nibs out because I really wanted to use my traditional nibs, and because I've got a lot of them. But for some reason, I'm going to do my stem here first so I can kind of, kind of identify that a little bit. I got to look at my petal. Here it is. All right. And I just was so frustrated yesterday. I've been working on this little project for days now, and I was using my pen nibs, and it was just so frustrating. It was very time consuming trying to get the ink going. So I actually did a little Google search. There's a guy that I really like who is he's a he is a Brazilian fellow, and literally oh my gosh, you should see his work. I follow him on Instagram, and he does sketching with an ink pen. He does not use a pencil. He's like right out there plein airing with a pen, and he does it with quick lines and hatching. Remember how I showed you about hatching in Drawing 101? Absolutely brilliant. And the reason why he said it's quicker. Most times he can get almost a rendered finish to it, and it stops him from looking for perfection all the time. He said because before being an artist, oh, you know what I did? I didn't do that right. No, I did it okay. It's just before on one of them. I think I did it on one of them. I had a little gap in between, but that does not matter. And so there we go with the stamens here. I'm just going to kind of lightly go over the stem, show that it's coming out. The stamen, see, and just kind of show a few lines here and there. And then underneath where the darkest parts are is where I'm going to come over with. This is a brand new Sharpie. It's really flowing. And maybe just, you know what, you can do broken too, almost like a dash. Do kind of broken lines, and that actually works too. Okay, now, I don't want to keep going over that. I'll go over this part here. I don't press hard on these two because if you press too hard, that will shorten the life of your felt tip as well. Learn the hard way. See, and just doing, that's what I want to show you. So for the, those nice striations, so I kind of took my pen and just really quickly, very lightly. Can you see it? It's very faint. Yeah. This line here is the line showing where the flip is, where the petal curls. And I'm just going to kind of come in here and do just a couple I don't want it to be, it could be broken too. Actually, it looks better when it is. Right? That's it. That's all I'm going to do. Now, finish here. So I can see where on these here, it really lightened up when it dried. So the beauty of that is I can go back in and darken that up with my colors again, which I will. And it's okay that we've got some, oh, I like it. I really like how it turned out, the leaves here. I think that's my favorite part of this time, are the leaves. So there, hey, it's getting, so my camera's actually mirroring it, but it doesn't matter. Pretty much the same. So this leaf, I'm going to make it as though it curled. And that's the beauty, right? Because now it's kind of defining your leaves. Right, so I'm going to make that kind of look like it's coming like that underneath. And then I'm going to make that into a leaf, even though I've got pencil line underneath it. I'm not going to bother. I'm going to just make my shapes. So this one here I'm going to do is a thin to a wide out this way. And I'm going to, there we go. Make this one skinny. Yeah, here's one here. There's a nice leaf. We'll put that up alongside and give it a couple. There's one here that I did. I'm going to make that one as though it flipped over at the end, and then I'll bring it down below there. Yeah, there's another one here. Another one there. Yeah, so I mean, you can just kind of make some leaves. And you know what? Those brown lines I put up here, I'm going to make that look like a stem going off. Right? And so, and then just let the eye make up the rest of them for you. Because you don't really need to overdo it that much. Oh, there's a leaf right here. I see that. There, see? Voila! Now, just to give it extra punch, I kind of like it the way it is. But I think what I'm going to do to give it extra punch, though, is to use these metallics. Just to give it that shine. Now, what I did with, I think I'll do the very, very light. This one here is, they just give it a number. They didn't say what this number or color is. Oops. So the nice thing about that is they actually have the number on the back too. So that is a number 5. All right. Okay. When in doubt, look about. Okay. So I'm just like very lightly just going over the petal, because this is just an iridescence. Like it's not a silver or anything. The silver is actually darker. You see that? It's very dark. But this is just like a pearlescent. Oh gosh, so pretty. So I'm just going over the white part. Talk about punch up that card. Whoever gets this Easter card's going to be so lucky. And then I got that copper. This one here I'm using. I think it's like a coppery brass. Oh, the boxes are somewhere. I think they put. This is the starry. I think that's the starry colors. No, that's the kohlrabies. This one here is the starry colors. I think I've showed you those before. And this one's the kohlrabi. The kohlrabi. These are Japanese, and man, they're classic metallics. So this is the gold that a lot of people really love. And that's pretty comparison with this one here on the, these ones are made by, yeah, these guys are getting pretty expensive because they become popular, right? But these will last me for a while. And I mean, also, like I said, I've got my own. Yeah, they just give numbers on these. It's all in Chinese. Those foreigners, right? They got it. So just start. Oh, Kiritaki. Right down in the bottom corner there, it says Kiritaki, another popular one. Alrighty. But they really, really, I just think that they are a great accompaniment. See, I wasn't paying attention. Almost dirty that with the copper, the brass. So does it starry colors? Yeah, no. Oh, wait. What? Yeah, this one here's got the name. So this one's called, yeah, that's silver, light gold, yellow gold, bronze, rose gold, and copper, of course. I could have named them off. No brainer. Oh, sheep dip. Seems so busy talking. Not paying attention. Okay, I'm going to go back into the bronze. Bronzy copper, I like it. Looks more like a brass. You know, dark brass. Oh, boy. Anyway. And I'm going to come to just tap it along here. Okay. All right. And then I am just going to take that red ochre. That's the one we use. We don't want to introduce anything else. Stay within the palette. And just dab the ends again. Just give it a little oompa again. Right. You can maybe add a little bit more in here too if you wanted to. And there. And voila! Okay, Sherry. Dry it up. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I think that's, we talked about all of this after, so it's nice. What's really nice is if you mirror each other on the colors and stuff, look at all the wonderful projects we can do, and I can just say, okay, grab that. Okay, my love, I'm going to end the stream, and I'll send you the links and all that good stuff. So, yeah, send me the finished picture. And Saranara, and I love you to pieces. Thanks for hanging out. So I'll see you Wednesday, and hopefully I'll have my Zoom fixed by then. And I think I might have to call the Zoom themselves because it doesn't seem to be an issue. It's for some reason it's not recognizing my USB camera in the live settings, but in the settings itself in Zoom, it's saying, yeah, I see you. Anywho, ciao, baby.